Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I thought it would be kind of fun to just sit down and do a story time. I want to share this specific story because it was honestly so crazy and scary to go through. I just want to share it with you guys because I've mentioned it before on this channel in previous videos, but I never went like fully into detail on what happened. Some of you might remember me mentioning in previous videos that my horse Kenny was injured a couple years back. So this story takes place on the 4th of July of 2015, and just to give you guys a little bit of backstory, I used to own a thoroughbred. His name was Kenny, and he was strictly an English disciplined horse. He had never been ridden Western before. It was not his discipline. You know, he was a jumper, that's what he did. He wasn't much of a trail horse. He didn't have a lot of trail experience. For some reason on this day, my former stepdad, we'll just call him Bob, Bob decided that he wanted to go trail riding because he, at the time, wanted to start a trail riding business. His idea was that he wanted to use Kenny as one of his trail horses. And, you know, I tried explaining to him, look, Kenny's not a trail horse. He's never been ridden Western, but here you are tacking him up in a Western saddle. Doesn't make much sense. This is not going to end well. He decided to still go up on trail with Kenny. And when I say go up on trail, basically the barn that we were at had this trail that went up and you could basically ride up onto the top of a canyon ridge. So that's where he was taking Kenny. My Nana was actually visiting us during the time, and she was on Spirit, our Missouri Foxtrotter. So she went up with Bob on trail, and Spirit was a trail horse. He liked going on trail, so we had no worries about him, and we trusted him enough to put my Nana on him. I was down at the barn. I was exercising my warm blood in the arena, and I had finished riding. I was grooming him, hosing him off because it was so hot out. It was the 4th of July, and I live in California, so it gets pretty hot. All of a sudden, my mom gets a call, and it's Bob. Bob's on the phone, basically freaking out to my mom, saying, Kenny took off, I don't know where he went. Kenny ended up bolting and Bob fell off. Where they were riding, it was just open land. So Kenny just went running when Bob fell off. Luckily, Bob was able to get a hold of Kenny, but here's the sad part. No one saw this part happen. My Nana didn't see it happen, Bob didn't see it happen, but there is evidence that it did happen, which I'll get into later. Kenny basically ran himself into a tree branch. Yes, a tree branch. There had to be some sort of like low-hanging tree branch that Kenny ran into when he was freaking out. I'm down at the barn with my mom, and we see Bob leading Kenny down the hill. My Nana comes riding in with Spirit, and we get him untacked. And I go running up to Bob to go see Kenny, and I just stop. There was a large flap of skin on Kenny's forehead that was just hanging off. And he was bleeding. He looked like he was in so much pain. I was freaking out. I honestly didn't even know what to do because no one was at the barn. Again, it was a holiday. It was the 4th of July, so everyone was out at the beach and barbecuing and all that stuff. Thankfully, we were able to get a hold of our vet, and he was able to come out and help us. If our vet hadn't been available, I don't know what we would have done. I honestly don't even know. I mean, we were freaking out because it was really bad. Kenny was so out of it. And when our vet got to the barn, he was like, you guys need to take him to a clinic, immediately. The scary part is that we weren't able to tie Kenny up inside the trailer, which is so dangerous, let me just say. So Kenny was basically standing free in the trailer. The only reason we did this is because we weren't able to tie him up in his condition. And our vet suggested that we just drive very slow and be as careful as we can be. We were driving so slow because we didn't want him to fall over. When he got to the clinic, they were, checking him out and everything, and they ended up doing surgery on him the following day. But Kenny was at this clinic for about, I want to say like 2.5 weeks. They sewed the skin back to his forehead. But what they found when they were cleaning his head was that there was tree bark in his skull. My horse had tree bark in his skull. This is how we know that he ran into a tree, because of that. And I was just so upset. I remember crying and crying and crying every day that he was at that clinic because I felt so helpless. I felt like there was nothing I could really do to help him. And like, that horse was my baby, I was at the clinic basically almost every day for the 2 weeks that he was there, grooming him and just giving him attention and letting him know that I was there. But it was really interesting. I have never seen a horse hooked up to an IV, and like the way that they had it set up at the clinic was actually pretty cool. I'll post pictures here of a before and after so you guys can see what his head looked like the day after surgery versus a couple months into recovery. Kenny did fully recover, and they were able to get all of the tree bark out of his skull. I mean, the way that they like sewed him back up was amazing. It only left a little scar on the top of his head, but other than that, there was really no sign of any of that ever happening. Another thing that was really concerning, when we took him to the clinic, they thought he lost vision in one of his eyes. But they basically thought that he lost vision because of everything that had happened. They thought he had like hit a nerve. I was really scared after I heard that. I was like, there's no way he lost his vision. I just got this horse. I got him in, I think, March or April of 2015. So I had only had him for a couple months, and here he was injured, and I was like, I should have never let Bob take him up on trail. I should have told him no, I shouldn't have let him do it. I was 15 at the time. I had no control over what Bob was doing. I don't think Bob ever went back out to the barn. His trail business never became a thing because I think he was just, he felt guilty for what had happened to Kenny. He ended up coming home back to our barn a couple weeks later, and he was on stall rest from, I think, the end of July to the beginning of October. So for a couple months, I wasn't able to ride him. I would only be able to like walk him around the barn. We had to put like a spray on his wound and on his head every time we were at the barn. And it was just really hard to see him in that condition, and I would go out to the barn and I would still have to exercise my 2 other horses. All that matters is Kenny did make a full recovery. But yeah, that was probably the most traumatic thing that I've ever experienced with a horse. I'm just excited to have a horse again one day, and I know I talked about this in my first video that I posted recently since I've been back on this channel, and I'm on a journey to have a horse again. So I hope you guys stick around for that because I cannot wait, and I'm planning on moving in a couple years, hopefully as soon as I can. If you want to join the journey, you can definitely subscribe down below. Leave a comment if you enjoyed this video, and you can follow me on Instagram or on my blog, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye.